Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview, where we take a look at the stories being followed in the current edition of the North Coast Journal. I'm your host, Dave Frank, and I'm joined today by Thad Greenson, news editor, and Jennifer Famiko Cahill, arts and features editor at the North Coast Journal. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
Pretty good. Got some sun shining through the window. That part is good. But unfortunately, I read the news yesterday and saw how COVID is still kind of ramping up sort of relentlessly, making its way across our community. So maybe we should just dive right into that. And why don't you give us the latest news from where you're sitting on what's going on in our community?
Yeah, so we are still, it seems, on the upslope of this Omicron surge that has been with us through January so far. Confirmed 840 new cases yesterday, Tuesday. That's, of course, a 3-day tally. But the most alarming part to me about those test results is the test positivity rate, which was up above 50% yesterday, which is, we've talked about before, is just really an indication that there's a lot more COVID out there than is being caught in tests. Especially with today's, with the prevalence of home tests right now and the fact that, a significant proportion of those do not get reported to public health. It's safe to, assume that whatever the daily testing totals we're seeing are, there's a significantly higher case rate than that.
So just like we're seeing across the country, it's pretty rampant here too.
Yeah, and the wave, Omicron was slower in getting to Humboldt County than other areas of the country. So I think in other areas we're seeing numbers start to plateau or even come down. And in Humboldt County, like I said, we're just clearly still on the upslope. I think the second week of January saw us confirm about 25% more cases than the first week, and we're on track to see a similar trend this week, if not more. So health officials have said, they expect the current surge to peak sometime in February, and it certainly seems that that's the trajectory we're on. The good news, I will say, is I haven't seen today's tally, but as of yesterday, I think there were 14 people hospitalized locally, which is down significantly than where we were last week when we hit upwards, I think, of 20 or 22. So there is some hope that hospitalizations will not be as bad as some predicted, but because those trail a week or two behind test confirmations, we'll have to wait to see how that trickles out.
Thank you for that update. We're going to let Jennifer introduce the cover and some of the content that's related to the cover. But before we do that, do you want to share with us the news story that you covered this week related to our Humboldt County schools?
Yeah, that is actually we have a kind of a weird issue this week. It's a themed issue on health and wellness. So the cover image itself is just kind of amalgamation of health and wellness things, but the story that technically offers or occupies the cover space in the paper is about school testing.
There you go.
And school districts, kind of frantic efforts at this point to contain the Omicron surge within their, the confines of their campuses and to try to keep students in classrooms. And so what we did for the story is, Humboldt County is unique in that it is home to a gazillion school districts for a county our size. We have 30 school districts in a county of 135,000 people, which is a lot. And within those, there are 70 school campuses or 70 plus school campuses. So what we tried to do this week is get a handle on how all of those districts and all of those campuses are working to implement not just testing, but also COVID mitigation measures in their schools. And so we, sent out a survey basically to all superintendents in Humboldt County and got responses from, I think, roughly half to two thirds. And what we heard is that I thought was really interesting. First of all, it's, as you might imagine, with 30 districts, it is 30 points of light. Every district is doing something slightly different. They're all, trying their best to keep COVID from spreading within their classrooms. And they have different methods for monitoring how COVID is spreading. Some districts have implemented, really pretty sophisticated monitoring programs of surveillance testing. And so like Pacific Union School District in Arcata, for instance, is doing a pooled testing model where they test every kid every week, or every kid whose parents give consent. But they test those all every week, and they put them in pooled batches. And so each classroom has 3 or 4 batches. And then if one of those comes back with a positive result, then they follow up and test all the kids that were in that pool. In an
That's
effort to
awesome.
kind of, to surveil like what's happening proactively surveil what's happening on campus.
That's what they do in Germany too. Not to interrupt you, but there are other countries that's how they've been doing this for their whole country.
Yes, and it's been tremendously successful. But that takes, a hefty staff investment of time and resources. And so some districts haven't been able to do anything like that and are really just, doing the mandated testing of unvaccinated teachers and staff, and then testing students who have a known exposure or are symptomatic in some kind of way. And then between those two, there's kind of everything in between of, some districts have made rapid tests available to any student who wants them anytime. But I think the important thing for the average person to recognize is that, schools weren't given a tremendous amount of resources to take on this additional public health function of conducting these tests and taking samples and getting them to the lab, or, reading the antigen tests and then doing the contact tracing that comes with that. So to date, pre-Omicron, schools were really, scrambling to make all this work. And I think they deserve a ton of credit in that it's been really successful to date in Humboldt County. There have been some really limited school closures, but only a couple through the first, 4 or 5 months of the school year. Now we're seeing, cases explode at a rate that we've just never seen locally. And so it was interesting to hear from districts about kind of how they're scrambling to keep up with that. And so some have ramped up their testing strategies to test, 2 or 3 times a week as opposed to just once a week previously. And but I think what to me was the most interesting aspect of this is, when we asked schools like what was working, it wasn't rocket science. It wasn't like they came up with, new face shields that had never been seen before or something. What they said is we're following, public health protocols. And because these are controlled environments, they can make sure these protocols are followed. And so masking is universal in classrooms in Humboldt County. Physical distancing is universal in Humboldt County. If you go visit a school in Humboldt, all of them have, spray painted little markers out on the sidewalk and the walkways, visually giving people visual cues of what 6 feet looks like. And, they have hand washing or hand sanitation stations at the entry to every classroom. And they're very proactively contact tracing. And so they're basically using the tools that are at the wider community's disposal. Again, there's no new technology here or anything like that. But because it's a controlled environment, they can make sure these things are just kind of religiously followed. And, most districts said they hadn't confirmed an on-campus transmission to date, which is rather extraordinary. And then some districts said even that they haven't had a single confirmed case on campus, which is kind of mind-blowing, months and months into the school year.
Yeah, I mean, this is all extremely positive news. Besides just the results, which are overwhelmingly positive, even the implementation is that the fact that the implementation has been effective. That's really because people. That's the number one thing I think people ask me is like, well, what's going on with the schools? And I didn't realize there were 70 different, or 30 different, cracks at this, 30 different ways to do it. But it sounds like the feedback you've gotten from a variety of people are all relatively positive. What's maybe some of the negative feedback or some of the hardships that they're facing?
Well, again, staffing. And so as these testing programs have to scale up to meet just the kind of the demands of the surge, that's putting more of a burden on districts, assuming all staff are healthy and on campus. And, with this amount of spread in the community, what we're seeing is districts are increasingly being impacted by staff members falling ill or testing positive. And, again, not necessarily on campus, but contracting the virus out in the community, testing positive, and then not being able to show up for work. And so, for instance, McKinleyville Unified School District in the last couple of weeks has had to close a couple of its schools for several days, McKinleyville Middle and Morris Elementary. And that wasn't because of a classroom outbreak. That was because they just didn't have enough staff members to safely and have school open that day.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's really in line with the trend of Omicron impacts that we've seen across the country, not just at school districts, but at local governments and transportation sector and stuff like that, is just, the staffing implications of a virus that's this contagious and this widespread. And when people have to isolate, have to quarantine, that means they can't be at work. And so I think that's where Humboldt County schools are going to find themselves in real jeopardy of having to pivot to distance learning for a period in the coming weeks, is if they can't effectively staff classrooms.
Well, this is incredibly fascinating, and thank you for the update. I think people will really benefit from hearing this, cross spectrum of results from you guys about what's going on throughout the community. So we appreciate you guys.
You're welcome. And I think the theme of the day is that masks and physical distancing work. So maybe the community ought to try it.
Yeah, go figure. Oh my goodness.
Crazy talk.
Especially during this awful surge period that is finite in nature. But that's another, yeah. Hopefully people are listening and internalizing these lessons.
Hope so. How
about you, Jen? What is going on the Arts and Features Beat this week?
Well, for the health and wellness issue, as we were putting it together, I recall Thad sighing and saying, Jen, every week is the health and wellness issue, because we are constantly talking about health and safety and all this stuff. I have a love-hate relationship to the term wellness, because on the one hand, it is, a great way to approach health as, starting from making yourself healthy, making yourself, starting from the positive and not beginning with sickness, right? Making our lives better. But it's also this massive marketing push, to sell you stuff, including lots and lots of diet stuff. Too often wellness and a health journey is really about weight loss, which, I'm not going to bag on anybody who's, dealing with or trying to lose weight. I get it. I am subject to the same influences and the same middle age as anyone else. But there's more to us than that when we talk about our health. And there's more to us in terms of our eating than weight loss. And so I wanted to, for the On the Table article this week, I wanted to talk about your food life. So not just, we talk about our social life, our sex life, our work life, etc., and our work-life balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thoughts. Oh my goodness.
We talk about those things, but for as important and as connected to the rest of our lives as food is, most of the time we just talk about our diets and our eating habits, but there's more to it. And I wanted to talk about your food life. And so I came up with a list of resolutions. I don't even know how many I came up with, but they are resolutions for your food life that do not have to do with dieting, because there is enough coming at you from every single direction. Oh my God, Marie Osmond, leave me alone. So some of the things that I came up with in terms of enriching your food life include, some starting as simply as just really going ham on your food, just really enjoying it fully. I know people want to be present while they're eating, and that's important. But what if you went crazy present? What if you just went wild? What if you enjoyed food the way that a child enjoys their first birthday cake? That crazy thing where they put a whole cake in front of a toddler and they just
I still do that.
I love that for you. I love that whole journey for you. But really losing yourself in the pleasure of food. I had a burrito at my desk a couple weeks ago that was so good, and I was so happy. I let my phone ring. I'm sorry, Thad. I ignored some things. I just was with my beautiful burrito in the deepest way. And I am recalling it as a happy memory in times of stress.
Nice.
And I want people to enjoy their food. There's so much stress about what to eat, when to eat, and all that stuff. Once you're sitting there eating, enjoy it. Live your best food life. Also, I'm always telling people to eat locally. And I don't just mean, local organic legumes, although all that stuff is wonderful. If you can get farm fresh eggs and support local farms, absolutely. But I also mean like local burgers and fries and local sandwiches and any place where you can choose between a local business where money goes back into our economy, where people are encouraged to be entrepreneurs here in Humboldt County is always going to be better. And it is going to have a lower footprint than most of your fast food joints. I know people love the KFC and I get it. Once in a while you have to have it. But, we also have lots of local places that make great fried chicken and aren't owned by, somebody out of state who is, never going to be here and never going to really care about us as a community. So there's that. There's also holding on to foods that are important to you. So particularly now in the midst of this, diet January, where all this marketing is coming at you, lots of people are going to tell you to cut this out, cut that out. And every year it's something different. And I don't know, maybe it works. I have zero idea. But I do know that when you cut out food that is important to you, you suffer psychologically. As I mentioned in the article, I went a year without rice. Who was I? What was I doing? It was insane. I was miserable the whole time. And when I went back to rice, I have a very vivid memory of that beautiful first pearly bowl of hot rice. And I was like, why did I give this up? I'm an idiot.
I've heard people say they can't eat pizza anymore because it's too much. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, it's part of, how do you not eat pizza? It's one of those things where when you're eating pizza, you just commit to it and you accept it and you embrace it and the bliss.
Yes. I consider pizza to be part of the Mediterranean diet.
There you go.
Right? Italians. But also, when you think about it, somebody out there can't eat gluten. You need to eat this pizza for them.
Yeah.
Enjoy this pizza for the people who can't eat dairy.
Yeah.
Thinking of you.
Comfort food, underline, exclamation point, bold.
Yeah. Live your best life. Also, we give ourselves so much pressure on how we eat, but also how we cook. When our parents and grandparents were learning to cook, they did not have, Nigella breathing down their necks and Instagram and everything else. They just learned to cook, and some of it was ugly. And, through trial and error, you come up with something. And cut yourself that slack. Let yourself fail. If you go to my Instagram, you will see burned meringues, popovers that did not pop. You will see, I once made a choco flan cake that's half flan and half chocolate cake that was so hideous that my son actually asked me if it was meatloaf. It's okay.
Oh no.
It's okay.
With sugar.
Yeah, I ate it. Also, while we're on the subject of family cooking, if there are recipes in your family or among your friends, your circle of people, however you define your family, get them. Ask. And ask about how the recipe came to them. Ask about, who first made it, who hated it, what the fight is over what it should be like. Get all that family lore, get all that personal history. Because to ask, oh, can I get the recipe from you? And just get the little card or have it emailed to you or whatever. Yeah. It's not the same, but get it, because we don't have each other for as long as we think we're going to, even if you live to 99. I've got recipes that I wish I had gotten from my husband's grandmother who literally made it to 99. And I missed that opportunity. And even if I have them written down, I really wanted that gossip that came with it. So absolutely go get those recipes. And then, one of the most important resolutions that I have on here is to feed somebody. And whether that means like, if you don't cook, drop off, a can at one of those little free pantries. There's one in my neighborhood, which I think is the loveliest thing in the world. It's just a box, like a postal box, but with food that somebody can take.
That's awesome.
You can drop off money at Food for People. They're not going to sniff at you if it's not a lot of money, just whatever you can. Or when you're making food for yourself, make a little extra and box somebody up. It doesn't have to necessarily even be somebody in need. There are different kinds of need, and sometimes that need is just somebody caring about you enough to drop off some chicken soup. the way that COVID is racing through our community, make a big pot of chicken soup. Leaving soup on somebody's porch is like my love language. Yeah. So there's all that stuff to consider. And I would love to hear what people have going on in their own food lives that makes them feel good and enriched and like they're living their best food life. So if you have something that I missed, hit me up. Please tell me.
Right on. So you've got other things going on besides delivering cookies to neighbors in this issue. You want to share
I sound
with us?
so wholesome. I guarantee I am not that wholesome.
This is fantastic. I have to say, I know we're moving along. Like, I would love to dig deep into the issue, but one of the stories that you shared with me, which I think is absolutely hysterical, and again, it's prose, it's wonderful. It's called Vaccine Marketing Meeting. It's so cool. Can you just share with us a little bit about what went into that article?
I'm super glad you enjoyed it. I did a satirical piece on a marketing firm trying to put together an approach to get people who are not getting vaccinated. And there's, lots of different ways to get people who are vaccine hesitant or people who have questions, people who are, frightened of something new. And, there's lots of really good rational approaches. However, when the resistance is irrational, what do you do? What do you do for somebody who's like full QAnon? What do you do for somebody who is just out there buying jade eggs from Gwyneth Paltrow? How do you communicate to those people? And so in a Zoom marketing meeting, everybody is sort of pitching their ideas, and they run from making a Goop-like experience to making adding testosterone and male enhancement medication into the shot, etc. And just really wild ideas that, on the one hand, I'm like, would this work?
Like free babysitters. Like, that's awesome.
Right? Free
that's
babysitting.
Actually a real idea.
I might illegally get more shots for free babysitting. And, one of them, for example, is like for people who are afraid of, what chemicals might be in their unnatural things, unhealthy things in their body. Then what if we just let the vaccine be distributed by the people who sell them black market cannabis? Because everybody seems fine with that, with your mystery weed from God knows who and God knows where. It's got like little bits of fisher hair in it and pesticides, but enjoy. It's getting harder and harder to laugh about COVID, but we're trying. Yeah. And actually, in the rest of the issue, there's a lot more stuff, including there's a really great piece from Louisa Rogers where she talks about breaking bad habits in really unconventional ways. And God love her. Not only did this woman quit smoking, which very hard, congratulations, big step. But also she quit Doritos, which part of me is like, whoa. Did you really though? Is it possible?
Right.
Because I don't know. I believe that you can quit heroin. I can believe that you can turn your life around. I don't know if you can ever really stop chasing the Dorito dragon.
Right.
But she did it by getting like a chip sponsor. Yeah, she got, for one, potato chip addiction, but then she also had a ceremony where she said goodbye to Doritos by wearing a Dorito dress, a dress that was decorated with Dorito bags.
And a ritual.
Yeah. Don't think I didn't ask for the pictures, but sadly there are none. There are no. So it just lives in my imagination now, like a Disney princess dress, but orange. And then we have a great story by Simona Carini about the mental health benefits of going outside in nature. She goes to Big Lagoon and has wonderful, refreshing benefits from being ignored by a flock of brown pelicans.
Nice.
So good.
It's the real deal. I mean, I think, not to steal anybody's thunder, but it really is chemically, physically proven that those endorphins that you get from physical exercise and being outside and communing with nature are actually making you more healthy and well. So it's a real thing. So I'll check that article out too.
Yeah, it's great. There's a lot of really great content in this health and wellness, and I'm proud of it for not being kind of the woo-woo capitalism content. I feel like we we really talk to people about their health.
Right on. Well, that's about all the time we have this week. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you so much, Thad.
Thanks, David.
North Coast Journal is available on newsstands now. Pick one up, stay informed. Also available online 24/7 if you just got to go check out these articles right away. Thank you guys again, and take care until we connect again next week.
See you next week.